Welcome to Baby Boomer Tales. My name's Jim. You can find us at babyboomertales.com. You can write us at babyboomertales@gmail. We just got back from Colorado here a while back. We spent 2.5 weeks there, but the plan going in was we were going to leave Kansas for Colorado, take a day to get there, spend 6 days at my daughter's home, her and her family, spend Christmas, part of those 6 days, then come home on another day. We'd be gone 8 days altogether. While driving there, we were driving in 60 to 80 mile an hour winds. There were dust storms where you couldn't see anything. It was terrible. It was awful. And we just kept going. And in Colby, Kansas, Interstate 70 was actually closed because of the winds. So we had to spend the night in Colby before we proceeded on to Colorado the next day. And there were no winds then. But as we started gaining altitude, once we got closer to my daughter's home, our car started to heat up. You know, your gauges, all of a sudden, they got higher and higher as far as the coolant temperature. And we somehow made it there. And so I knew what had happened, something with the thermostat. That windstorm had actually knocked a hole in a hose. Things were flying around there like crazy during that storm. So it was right during the Christmas season, and I talked with my son-in-law, and he gave me a couple garages names, and so I went down looking the next day, and everything was closed till like the 30th of December, except for a car dealership that sold Jeeps, and we have a Jeep Cherokee, my wife's car, and so it was going to take a week just to get parts and get it done because Christmas and New Year's fell on Thursday, and so we have Friday, maybe places are closed, and the weekend. And then parts didn't come in when they were supposed to, and long story short, we were there almost 2.5 weeks before we got home. It was a very trying time, although we didn't get stranded out on the road or anything. We got to stay at my daughter's. She and Ryan and the kids actually went to Ryan's family's for a week while we just stayed at their house, and then they came back. We were still there. Thank goodness they gave us a nice warm place to stay. So the only bad part about it was, getting your car fixed, not being your mechanic or any of that stuff, and getting back home. But we made it home. We did. We made it home, and here we are, back in northeast Kansas. The only thing I'm really concerned with Colorado, besides some of the stunts they pull, I'm always talking about not giving you a bag. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard of, but last couple times I was there, for some reason I'm having a little bit of a hard time breathing. Usually happens at night when I'm trying to get to sleep or wake up, and it's quite a bit higher, about 6,000 feet higher than what I'm used to, where she lives, and I never thought I'd have a situation like that. I always think of myself as a Colorado boy. But whatever, I'm back here at 1,000 feet above sea level now, and things are good. It is pretty where she lives, though. $1 million view right outside her window. See all these wonderful mountains just right there. It is pretty. Our song of the week is Homeward Bound by Simon and Garfunkel, written by Paul Simon, recorded and released in January of 1966. It reached number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. It's on the album Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme. A couple of the other great songs on that album by Simon & Garfunkel are the 59th Street Bridge Song, Feeling Groovy, Scarborough Fair, and of course Homeward Bound. Homeward Bound, I wish I was homeward bound. That's what I was singing there when we were stuck in Colorado. When I was little, we lived in that basement in north central Colorado Rocky Mountains, 8,000 feet above sea level. We were living in the basement before my parents built the upstairs to our house. We had a little blonde record player, I remember that. Blonde wood, it was real light colored wood. And it was just a record player, stood on 4 legs. And my parents have several albums, and one of them was by Harry Belafonte. And the song we always played over and over and over was Day-O. Daylight Coming, I Wanna Go Home. The Banana Boat song, I believe it's called. We'd just play that and play that. Sing it and sing it. Well, about the time I turned about 14, I went down to the drugstore and bought 4 records. 4 45 records. One of them was Hello Mudda, Hello Fada by Alan Sherman. Talking about being a boy in summer camp. And my brothers and I played that and played that. In fact, they'd want to play it when I wanted to play some of my other records. Whenever I hear that song today, I think of them. In fact, my brother Don just wrote me about a week ago and put a link to that song and told me that he was thinking of me when he heard that song. So I wrote back and said, I always think of you and John when I hear that song. The other records I bought was Popsicles and Icicles by the Mermaids, Sugar Shack by Jimmy Gilmore and the Fireballs, and Surf City by Jan and Dean, which really caught my imagination. 2 girls for every boy. I was 14, I had just discovered girls. Really, I had just discovered them. I mean, I knew them all my life, but all of a sudden they were like different. And then a few months later, I went and bought a 45 by this group I just saw on Ed Sullivan. It was by the Beatles. It was I Want to Hold Your Hand. The B-side to that great 45 was I Saw Her Standing There. And I really didn't know which one was my favorite. I loved the Beatles. They were with me. They're still with me. I was going to say from the early days of me liking music. Well, I was about 14, like I said, maybe just turned 15, and girls were definitely on my radar. And I met a girl named Robin, and we spent about a week just holding hands and having fun and looking at each other. And then she announced to me that her family was moving. Before I knew it, she was gone. And a song on the radio hit me right in the head. It was called Never Love a Robin by Bobby V. Never love a robin, 'cause she'll fly away. I was broken-hearted for a couple weeks. Don't be concerned, it will not harm you. It's only me pursuing something I'm not sure of. Elusive Butterfly by Bob Lind in 1966. By then I was driving, and I drove my parents' old white station wagon up and down Main Street all over the county. I drove that car. I was 16 and life was good. Cruising up Main Street, cruising back down. About the time I was either a junior or senior in high school, I remember going to either a prom or a homecoming dance. And my good friend Dan was doing this dance where he was flapping his arms up and kicking his legs out and back down, up and down. And he explained to me that was the Freddie. Do the Freddie, do the Freddie. Remember that dance? I remember the song. I couldn't even do that dance very well. But Dan was very, very musical. Let me just put it that way. He knew how to dance well. He could play instruments and stuff. Yeah, about my senior year, a song came out by Scott McKenzie called San Francisco. Be sure to wear flowers in your hair. And I could just imagine girls wearing flowers in their hair in San Francisco. There'll be a love in there. and it caught my imagination so much. And so I did go to San Francisco on my travels. I hitchhiked all over the United States. And I was highly disappointed with San Francisco. Highly disappointed. But it did become part of my lifestyle there. The traveling around, liking hippie girls, grooving out to the Beatles. There was the White Album, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. There was Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, with a little help from my friends. And there was Abbey Road, Here Comes the Sun. Through all that, I ended up back home, back in my home county. And after a while, I was living out the Jap camp. It was about 3 old cabins the Japanese farmers had back in the 30s and 40s, and they were sent to an internment camp during World War II, never to return again. And the place fell in disrepair, and a bunch of us went and fixed those cabins up and was living in them. And the song that I remember the very, very most from that time was Where To Now, St. Peter by Elton John. Through all those years, I did know a lot of young ladies, and they weren't all hippie girls or any of that stuff. But I was starting to get very, very lonesome. Very lonesome. And a song came out called Desperado by Eagles. And I knew that I really just wanted a woman to grow old with. And I knew I wasn't going to meet her in a bar. Don't you draw the Queen of Diamonds, boy. She'll beat you if she's able. The Queen of Hearts is always your best bet. Well, that's what I was looking for, is a Queen of Hearts. Speaking of Queen, there's a group, and they sang Somebody to Love. Oh Lord, can anybody find me somebody to love? Somebody to love. During that time, even though I had girlfriends and friends that were girls and dates whenever I wanted one, so I really wasn't too ugly back then, but I met Kim, and the next thing you know, and I don't even know how it happened, because I had asked God for a woman to marry, and when I found her, I wanted to back out and run away. You know how that works? Well, thankfully, I didn't do that, and we tied the knot up there in that little church at the lake town, the same church my parents got married in. And then we started having babies. Like, isn't she lovely? Isn't she wonderful? Isn't she precious? Less than 1 minute old. Stevie Wonder said it perfectly. We had 2 little girls, 13 months apart. And then through circumstances that a lot of it was beyond my control, we left that wonderful, beautiful country and moved to Kansas. And as I said goodbye, Michael W. Smith had this song right during that time. Friends are friends forever, and a friend will not say never. So we started a new life in Kansas, and life was good. We've been through a lot together, Kim and I, but we kept our family intact. And then my dad died. And during his funeral, they played a song that I had never heard or heard of the songwriter. It's Seeing My Father in Me by Paul Overstreet. I notice I walk the way he walks. I notice I talk the way he talks. That was a turning point in my life. And even though I was in my 40s by then, his death signaled the time that I decided to actually grow up. And grow up I did. And then my mother passed away. Today there's a song out called Scars in Heaven by a group called Casting Crowns. And there's 2 things that always remind me of her. Or when I think of her and become melancholy, I run to that song and I run to a podcast I made about my mom. The only scars in heaven are on the hands that hold you now. I miss you, Mom. Well, there's a song called Our Town by Iris DeMent. It reminds me of my little hometown. Even though the song is about a town that is dying, I associate my little town, my little hometown, with that song because it is not the same as the place I grew up in, as the place I had my children in, and where Kim and I bought our first home. And just like they say, nothing good ever lasts. Well, through all this, I'm just like that guy that sang The Cape. His name's Guy Clark, and it's about this little kid that ties a towel around his neck and jumps off the roof, knowing that that cape will help him fly, and he won't get hurt. He's one of those that knows that life is just a leap of faith. Never forget that. Life is just a leap of faith. And so now I'm in the autumn, or maybe even the winter of my life. Yeah, it's the winter of my life now. And there's a song that stays with me, and I listen to it almost every week. And it's by Lauren Daigle. And it's called To Know Me. And it explains me so well. But then again, to know me, you would have to know my friend. Never lose touch with being kind. I'll be back next Wednesday. Peace out.